The Queen's Lancashire Regiment was an infantry regiment of the British Army, part of the King's Division. It was formed on 25 March 1970 at Connaught Barracks in Dover through the amalgamation of the two remaining Lancashire infantry regiments, the Lancashire Regiment and the Loyal Regiment. The Queen's Lancashire Regiment became infamous for its torture and killing of civilians in Iraq. Most famous of the victims was a hotel worker called Baha Mousa, who was starved and beaten to death by members of the Queen's Lancashire Regiment. History. Since formation, the Queen's Lancashires have served on operations in Northern Ireland in 1970, 1971, 72, 1972, 73, 1975, 76, 1977, 1980, 81, 1987, 1990 to 92, 1997 to 99 and 2001, during the course of which 8 soldiers were killed in action. The 1st Battalion undertook 2 tours with BAOR in the mechanized role, the first of which was with 12 Mechanized Brigade in Osnabrück from 1970 to 1974. The second was with 33 Armoured Brigade in Paderborn from 1984 to 1990. The 1st Battalion also had the honour of being the last British battalion to serve in Berlin prior to the final withdrawal in 1994. Overseas service saw the 1st Battalion posted to Cyprus from 1978 to 1980 as the Western Sovereign Base Area Resident Battalion, and again in 1983, where they saw service with the United Nations. Her company was dispatched to the Falkland Islands in the aftermath of the 1982 war. The 1st Battalion returned to Cyprus as the Eastern Sovereign Base Area Resident Battalion from 2004 to 2005. In 1996, the 1st Battalion served as part of I-4 in Bosnia, operating in the area known as the Anvil. The regiment's 1st Battalion saw service in Iraq in the months immediately following Operation Telic, from June to November 2003. Given responsibility for Iraq's second city, Basra, it gained much praise for its efforts to restore security and civil order. On 16 December 2004, it was announced that the Queen's Lancashire Regiment would be merged with the King's Regiment and the King's Own Royal Border Regiment into the Duke of Lancaster's Regiment. On 1 July 2006, the 1st Battalion, Queen's Lancashire Regiment, became the 1st Battalion, Duke of Lancaster's Regiment, Territorials. As well as the regular 1st Battalion, the regiment also had a Territorial Army 4th Battalion, which was formed on 1 April 1975, with headquarters at Kimberley Barracks, Preston, and companies at various times in Ashton-under-Lyne, Blackburn, Blackpool, Bolton, Burnley, and Bury. The battalion had a NATO role and trained overseas in Germany, France, Gibraltar, and the United States. The battalion also provided reinforcements for the 1st Battalion, Lancastrian and Cumbrian volunteers. As part of the Strategic Defence Review, the 4th Battalion merged with the 4th Battalion, the King's Own Royal Border Regiment, to create the Lancastrian and Cumbrian volunteers. This new unit had 2 Queen's Lancashire Rifle companies, one at Preston with a detachment at Blackpool, the other at Blackburn with a Royal Regiment of Fusiliers detachment at Bury. The headquarters was still at Preston but was multi-cap badged. Members of the LCV have seen extensive operational service. In June 2002, the LCV were tasked to provide the 1st Altar platoon, which was to be mobilized to go to Afghanistan and provide the protection force for headquarters British forces in Kabul. In the following weeks, a total of 39 soldiers were selected, trained and mobilized for this task. They went into theater on the 2nd of September and left Kabul on the 6th of December 2002. In 2003, 10 personnel were mobilized for service in Iraq on Operation Telek 1. Later in the year a further 97 personnel were mobilized to serve with the 1st Battalion on Op Telek 2 from May to December. Further personnel were mobilized for subsequent operations. Members of the LCV have also served on other operations in areas such as the Balkans. Abuses in Iraq. Some months after returning from Iraq, the battalion was at the center of the first serious accusations of abuse against Iraqi prisoners leveled at British soldiers. These accusations were illustrated on the front pages of the Daily Mirror by photographs which the regiment immediately denounced as staged fakes. The regiment then ran a successful campaign, believed to be unique for an active unit of the British Armed Forces, to prove that the pictures were false. After 2 weeks, the Mirror was forced to admit that it had found sufficient evidence to suggest that these pictures are fakes and that the Daily Mirror has been the subject of a calculated and malicious hoax. Editor Piers Morgan was forced to resign when he refused to apologize. During the controversy, one senior officer of the regiment was quoted as saying that it is time to measure the ego of one tabloid editor against the lives of British soldiers. Another was reported by the BBC as saying, "This regiment has taken on Louis XIV, Napoleon, the Kaiser and Hitler. I don't think Piers Morgan will detain us long." There has however been at least one case of true abuse. Corporal Donald Payne became Britain's first convicted war criminal after pleading guilty to abusing Iraqi detainees, which resulted in the death of one detainee, Baha Mousa. 6 other soldiers were cleared of any wrongdoing. The presiding judge, Mr. Justice McKinnon, stated that none of those soldiers has been charged with any offence, simply because there is no evidence against them as a result of a more or less obvious closing of ranks. The report from a 2011 inquiry into the killing stated that 19 soldiers had assaulted Mousa and 9 other Iraqi detainees, and that many other soldiers, including officers, must have known what was happening. On the 19th of July 2005, Attorney General Lord Goldsmith announced that Payne was being charged with manslaughter, perverting the course of justice and inhumane treatment of persons under the International Criminal Court Act 2001. On the same day, another 10 soldiers were also charged with similar crimes, 6 relating to the death of Mousa and 4 relating to the death of another Iraqi, Ahmed Jabbar Karim Ali, on the 8th of May 2003. The court-martial was held in Bulford Camp, Wiltshire, after an investigation by the Royal Military Police. It convened in the autumn of 2006, and concluded 6 months later in April 2007, being the most expensive court-martial in modern British military history. During the court-martial, Corporal Payne admitted he enjoyed hearing Iraqis call out during torture, describing the cries of pain as the choir. He was cleared of manslaughter and perverting the course of justice. 6 other soldiers were cleared of any charges, after earlier pleading guilty to the offence of inhuman treatment of persons protected under the Geneva Conventions. Corporal Donald Payne was sentenced to 12 months imprisonment, reduced to the ranks, and dismissed from Her Majesty's Armed Forces, on the 30th of April 2007. On all other charges, Corporal Payne and the other defendants were acquitted when the presiding judge, Mr. Justice McKinnon, ruled that there was no evidence against them. Mr. Justice Mackinnon suggested that he believed there had been some level of covering up with relation to the case, when he stated during the proceedings that none of those soldiers has been charged with any offence, simply because there is no evidence against them as a result of a more or less obvious closing of ranks. Battle honours. The Queen's Lancashire Regiment carried 204 battle honours. 6 are unique in the British Army, and 2 are unique in the world. There are very few campaigns in the history of the British Army in which some predecessor unit of the regiment did not take part. Pre-war: Gibraltar 1704-5, Louisbourg, Quebec 1759, Belle-Isle, Martinique 1762, Havana, St. Lucia 1778, Cape of Good Hope 1806, Madeira, Montevideo, Rolica, Vimeira, Corunna, Talavera, Java, Tarifa, Badajoz, Salamanca, Vitoria, St. Sebastian, Pyrenees, Nivelle, Nive, Orths, Toulouse, Peninsula, Niagara, Waterloo, Ava, Bhurtpore, Kandahar 1842, Ghazni 1842, Kabul 1842, Maharajpur, Alma, Inkerman, Sevastopol, Lucknow, Canton, New Zealand, Ali Masjid Ahmed Kill, Afghanistan 1878-80, Chitral, Siege of Kimberley, Relief of Lady Smith, South Africa 1899-02, The Great War 1914-18, Mons, Locato, Retreat from Mons, Marne 1914-18, Ain 1914-18, Le Basset 1914, Massy 1914-17, 18, Armentières 1914, Ypres 1914-15, 17, 18, Longmark 1914-17, Gellivelt, Nonboschen, Givenchy 1914, Neuve-Chapelle, St. Julien, Frezenberg, Bellewaerde, Aubers, Festabat 1915, Luz, Somme 1916, 18, Albert 1916, 18, Bazenton, Pozières, Guillemont, Ginchy, Flers, Corslet, Morville, Le Transloy, Ancre Heights, Ancre 1916, 18, Arras 1917, 18, Vimy 1917, Scarpa 1917, 18, Arlou, Oppy, Pilcombe, Menon Road, Polygon, Woodbrood, Signed, Poel Capel, Passchendaele, Cambrai 1917, 18, St. Quentin, Bapaume 1918, Rosiers, Villers-Bretonneux, Les Esters, Hazebrouck, Bailleul, Kemmel, Bethune, Scherpenberg, Sossenay-Ourcq, Drocourt, Quent, Hindenburg Line, Epy, Canal du Nord, St. Quentin Canal, Courtrai, Celle, Valenciennes, Samba, France and Flanders 1914-18, Costurino, Doran 1917, 18, Macedonia 1915-18, Hells, Krithia, Suvla, Saribert, Gallipoli 1915, Romania, Egypt 1915-17, Battle of Gaza, Nebi Samuel, Battle of Jerusalem, Jaffa, Tel Ashur, Palestine 1917-18, Tigris 1916, Kut al-Amara 1917, Baghdad, Mesopotamia 1916-18, Kilimanjaro, East Africa 1914-16, Interwar, Balochistan 1918, Afghanistan 1919. The Second World War 1939-45, Defense of Escaut, Dunkirk 1940, Normandy Landing, Odin, Caen, Bourges Ridge, Traun, Falaise, Niederrhein, Lower Maas, Venrage, Auerth, Rhineland, Reichswald, Wies, Hochwald, Rhine, Ibbenburen, Alais, Bremen, Northwest Europe 1940, 44-45, Banana Ridge, Djebel Keskis, Mount Jez Plain, Geriat Elatic Ridge, Gab D. Jebel-Boea Ukaz 1943, North Africa 1943, Anzio, Rome, Fiesole, Gothic Line, Monte Gameraldi, Monte Secco, Monte Grande, Italy 1944-45 Madagascar, Middle East 1942 Johor, Batu Pafet, Singapore Island, Malaya 1941-42, North Arakan, Mayu Tunnels, Pinway, Mikatila, Nyong-U Bridgehead, let's say, Irrawaddy, Burma 1943-45. Alliances. Canada, the Princess of Wales's own regiment. Canada, the West Nova Scotia Regiment. Canada, the Loyal Edmonton Regiment. Australia, the Royal Tasmania Regiment. New Zealand, the Wellington and Hawke's Bay Regiment. Pakistan, 8th and 14th Battalions, the Punjab Regiment. Malaysia, 2nd Battalion, the Royal Malay Regiment. South Africa, the Kimberley Regiment. Royal Navy, HMS Lancaster. Freedom Towns. Germany, Spandau. United Kingdom, Blackburn. United Kingdom, Burnley. United Kingdom, File. United Kingdom, Hindburn. United Kingdom, Pendle. United Kingdom, Preston. United Kingdom, Rosendale. United Kingdom, Warrington. United Kingdom, Chorley.